Togetherness Media. Togethernessmedia.com.
Greetings, beloved. This is Anthony Powers. We have an amazing show for you today on Togetherness Media. We have my man, Dr. Cade, in the house. We're going to have a conversation about acceptance, judgments, and assumptions. Sometimes we assume things, they say about assuming it makes a what out of you and a what out of me. But right now, we're going to talk to my man, the insightful, the intelligent, the wise, the debonair, the dashing, with the great tie game, Mr. Payam Kade. Dr. Cade, how you doing today?
Anthony, how are you today? I'm not wearing a tie.
Man, it's okay. It's okay.
How are you?
You
It's good to
still look
see you.
great without it. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm doing great.
Good, good.
Is holiday coming around? Pretty good for
Yeah,
you?
holiday. Yeah, holidays are, busy, busy catching up on everything.
We're
And
all
I
gonna
know
be
you're
stuck in the
excited.
home.
Yeah, I know you're excited. Tonight the Lakers get their rings, first game of the season.
Yeah, I'm actually recording it so I can watch it right after.
Nice, perfect, perfect.
It would be
All right, so
wonderful.
yeah, so today we're talking about assumptions, opinions, and judgments. What they say about assumptions. They say opinions are like another part of the body. Everybody has one, and half of them stink. And then judgments. And we're taught not to judge. So let's talk about those things today, and I'd love to hear what you have to say about those things.
So wonderful. I'm going to talk a little bit about judgment, perception, and assumption because they're all kind of
Okay.
linked together. First of all, in my opinion, and this is obviously my opinion, we all judge and we do it all the time. So there is no
Mm,
way that anybody can tell me they wake up in the morning and they don't judge. They judge based on how the weather is outside. They based on how they feel about what they should eat. So it's all passing judgment, and they even pass judgment when they see somebody. They may see somebody in crappy clothes, on hair not done correctly, or not, it's not clean, it's disheveled. They might pass a judgment quickly. We do it all the time. The problem is not judgment, because sometimes we do judgment. Judgment sometimes protects us, right? So we might walk
mm,
into a neighborhood and think, okay, this may not be safe. We immediately pass a judgment that this may not be a safe neighborhood. I have to protect myself. Or the weather is way too cold outside, I better bring a jacket. It's passing a judgment based on a perception that we have. The problem is when we do judgment based on assumption. And assumption basically, it means that we do it without enough knowledge about the subject matter.
mm,
We judge based on our own perception, and our perception is basically what we have learned through our life, through our sensory motors. And if I want to make a simple example of it, it's like if you walk into a kitchen and you smell some soup, you might immediately link that to a soup that you smelled in your grandmother's kitchen, right? You're going to say, "Oh my God,
mm,
my grandmother used to make that, and I have tasted it. It must be really good." That is a perception that is linked to your sense of smell, and then we obviously have a sense of taste if we try it, sense of touch. We have auditory, visual, all kinds of sensory motors that actually
yeah.
creates our perception. So our perception is really information that is stored in our unconscious based on what we have experienced in life, right? A
Yeah.
baby can smell the milk and can automatically have sensory motors start running, and feel hungry, and you can see the baby's mouth starts moving, right? So
Hmm.
it's based on what they have experienced. Experiences that we get through our perception get stored in our unconscious mind. Our unconscious mind, then every time they come across something in life, they try to find an answer as to what that is based on the perception they have had, whether that would be a visual perception, auditory, touch, smell, taste, all kinds of stuff. So that's perception. So we
Hmm.
basically pass judgment based on our perception. The problem is,
Yeah.
which we are seeing lately a lot more of, is that we pass judgment based on our assumptions.
Yeah.
Sometimes our assumptions are right. We're not always
Hmm.
wrong with making assumptions. Sometimes we make good assumptions, but sometimes we assume because we believe it's the truth, but it may not be. What does that mean?
Yeah.
To me, that means that I am making an assumption without looking at the proof or without
Yeah.
anybody showing me the evidence. I have just made up my mind. Again, I go back to my unconscious mind, and this obviously happened most of the time unconsciously, not consciously. And
Hmm.
we go based on what we have in our store. We look into our store and see what is there, and we say, oh, this matches that. So that's the assumption. This one is good, this one is bad, this one is ugly, this one is beautiful, right? So
Yeah.
we pass judgment on things. And then
Exactly. We want to make sure.
yeah.
We want to make sure we have enough data points. Like if somebody comes to it, like if somebody like sneezes, like you don't like
These days.
you can't just make like just like you can't make like just decide exactly why they sneeze just from that piece of information. Like you like, oh, it could be
Absolutely.
an allergy, it could be an allergy, it could have just been dust, it could
it
have
could
had some
it could
pepper
be
in the nose,
anything.
like you. Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. You have to have more
It
data
could be.
points, and like, and you
I'm
never know
gonna.
when you're gonna miss out on something based on judgments. Like, I had two friends in Berkeley, like when I was at Berkeley, absolutely gorgeous girls, gorgeous, stunning. They're twins, but the names their father gave them are Clytus and Hildebrand. Now, those two names aren't,
So cool.
in my opinion, aren't the most sexy, alluring names. And if somebody just like in a blind date were to hear those names, and that's all the information they had on the girls, we're like,
Hmm.
I'm cool on that blind date, you know what I mean? But you don't have all the information. There's like an old proverb that says, "And all you're getting, get an understanding." And if you are going to make a decision, if you are going to do things, make sure you have enough data points to give like a complete analysis, but so you can make an informed decision. Um,
Absolutely. And even then, we still have to think and tell ourselves that it does not mean just because it is my assumption and I have experience with it, it is absolute truth and fact. Why?
yeah,
For example, let's say that you have in your life, let's say you have gone to 50 different parties, right? And in
yeah,
every single one of those parties, they were serving food. You
hmm,
automatically, if you and I get invited to another party tomorrow, you may assume that there's going to be food in the party because every time you have gone to a party, there was some kind of food. Is it 100% fact that there's going to be food in that party? No.
no,
It's only based on our assumption, and we do it these days as well. I came up with a simple example, but we make it to be a certainty rather than
yeah,
probability. So
hmm,
assumption, in my opinion, and again, this is only my opinion, another psychologist might give you a different opinion. In my opinion, is whenever I assume something, I try to tell myself that this is my perception, it's not certain, it
hmm,
is a probability. It is a
yeah,
probability that that's going to happen, not a certainty. And when you make
yeah,
it not certainty, then you look for more facts to make that assumption more factual. You're looking for the knowledge base that is going to make that assumption come to reality and make it a true statement. So that
yeah,
is important. And of course, unfortunately, these days I don't see much of that out there. We on social media, a lot of people see a lot of different posts. They assume it's fact, or they assume it's not fact and it's not true. That's why we have all these fact checkers, right?
yeah,
Facebook, all of these sites now they have fact checking because they want to make sure that people are not misinforming people and not confusing people. And unfortunately, we don't go based on source. We go based on what we are seeing right there, right in front of us.
yeah,
One of our friends, or maybe somebody that we admire a lot. It could be the president, it could be the vice president, it could be somebody else, it could be a relative post something, and we automatically take that, and based on our own perception we have from that person and how much we like that person, that is extremely important fact.
Yeah.
It depends on how much you rely on that person to be truthful and honest. Then you
Hmm.
take their perception and you make it your own reality.
Yeah.
If your parent comes to you at age 3, right, and tells you this candy is so tasteful and so wonderful, because you
Hmm.
trust your parents and you love them so much and you know they have never done wrong to you, at least up until then, you assume that candy is going to be wonderful. And if I taste,
Yeah.
and you might taste it and say, ugh, that's horrible. But your perception until then, whatever you stored in your subconscious mind, it leads you to believe that there is a great probability or within certainty that candy is going to be great. And that's what we see in social media too. And of course,
Yeah.
it causes a lot of people
Yeah. And
and a lot of
even like
problem.
issues, oftentimes certain things like police profiling and other issues like that, or when security follow people, is based on assumptions, like instead of reality, and perceptions. And so many times, like the way that we treat each other based on religion, based based on ethnicity, based on gender, based on
Based on level of
sexual
education
orientation,
even. Absolutely.
are
Even level of
based on
education.
assumptions and sometimes incomplete or inaccurate perceptions of these different groups, and we make judgments based
Absolutely.
on it. I had
Absolutely.
the opportunity as far as empathy, like my first job out of Berkeley, like I did counseling for cancer and AIDS patients, well, for terminally ill patients in downtown San Francisco at the second dispensary in the state of California. And I also ran group therapy sessions for people trying to get off of hard drugs or alcohol. And I had to deal with everybody from rich older white men millionaires to transsexual prostitutes with HIV and AIDS. So like I had to deal with a lot of my own biases and face some of my own bigotries and some of my own misperceptions about how these people are, because I got to know these people as individuals and deal with them in life and death situations. And it challenged my former perceptions, and it challenged my assumptions of what these people would be like based on their general uh, groups and demographics. Can you speak a little bit about people tapping into breaking their perceptions, breaking assumptions they may have about general groups or demographics, or even like Republicans, they think Democrats are a certain way. All Democrats think Republicans are a certain way, you know? So like it's we
Right.
generalize so much. Can we speak about the dangers of generalization?
Absolutely. And I think you said it very well. I think generalization is basically when we overlook the source, we don't fact check, and we take findings as ultimate truth. And that goes again back to our own perception and what we have believed to be true. We generalize based on that. This is true about all cultures. All cultures do that. If you go back to India, they have a perception of people of Iran, for example, and people of Iran have a generalization perception of people of India. Is it true about all the people that are living in India? No. Is it true about all the people that are living in Iran? No. And that's where comes wisdom. And I think wisdom is when a person doesn't go based on, or they recognize that they have some biases and some information stored in their own perception, in their own subconscious, excuse me, and they have nourished it throughout their life. They have nourished it so much, right, in a repetitive way, and that became their reality. So if you and I have some kind of a belief and we keep feeding it, we
Yeah.
nourish it over and over and over, and then other people around us give us the same information and they nourish it for us as well. It becomes a concrete, in my opinion, concrete reality. When it becomes a concrete reality, it's so hard to step away from it. That's when wisdom should kick in, and of course that comes with not just with age, it doesn't come with just maturity age wise, it comes with maturity of conscious mind, meaning that every time I look into myself and process an information, I should tell myself, is that part of something that I've grown up with? Is there a truth to it? Did I fact check the source? Do I know
Yeah.
this information is absolute truth, or it's within reasonable certainty that it's true? So it's not 100% true. There is a possibility that it could be true. So let me, without me passing judgment so quickly, let me look at the sufficient knowledge base behind this to see if there is any
Yeah.
truth to it. So, for
Do you think
example,
it's
if I
also
look at COVID, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that instead of when we pass judgment very quickly, we do not allow ourselves to look into sufficient knowledge base and studies that are out there, information that could be more towards reality, what is real out there for majority of the people. We take that opportunity away from ourselves and we stick to our own judgment and we follow through with that. Why? Because, like I said, over the years we have had some information in our subconscious that we have nourished repeatedly over and over and over, and it became our reality, right? And we pass judgment based on that, and that's when we get into all kinds of problems, because if that reality doesn't become true, or somebody speaks different from what we believe it to be true, we start fighting with ourselves, with them, with the world to prove our point. And I think a mature understanding person is not out there to prove a point, is trying to understand the point.
Yes, and I think one interesting thing about that is that we also have to have the humility and strip away the arrogance and the ego of thinking we already know everything. So many people come into situations believing that they have nothing to learn, that their opinions are completely right, that there is no gray area, that everything is completely black and white. People are
Black and
either
white.
right or wrong, and having that extreme conviction can actually be a constriction. So it's necessary to make sure we have that flexibility of thought, that flexibility to, when we're wrong, go ahead and change our stance. Another story from back in college. When I first got to college, I used to persecute all of my vegetarian friends. Used to talk so bad about them. Used to talk about them like a dog. And I'm the kind of person, if I talk mess, I like to have facts to back up my mess talking. So I went and studied eating meat from a ecological, from an environmental, from a political, from a spiritual, from a health aspect. And the only reason I could find to eat is I love the way it tasted. I was like, man, I was wrong on this side of the argument. So I eventually stopped eating meat. So like it's so when you go through, make sure that if you that you are willing to learn about issues, especially things that you have very severe judgments about, and things that
Absolutely.
you bring down other people. That willingness to learn, that willingness to change is so essential to our growth as humans. Don't
Yeah,
you
I
agree?
remember when, yeah, absolutely. I remember when I was growing up, we had meat probably 2, 3 times a week. And I felt that is supposed to be the major source of protein. Like if you don't have
Hmm.
meat for a while, God knows what's going to happen to you. Then I came across a friend that I have here who's 65 years old. I'm 52, he's 65. He's much healthier than I am. He
Uh,
can run 3 miles without even getting tired, and he doesn't
yeah,
eat meat, and he's 65 years old. And then when I obviously started associating with him, I realized it's not the meat, it's about eating healthy. It's not the
yes,
meat that is going to give you what you need. It's not it is going to give you the nutrition that you need. It's the healthy sources that are other sources. I
yeah,
have been brought up thinking that is the source,
yeah.
but now I can change my perception and allow and assimilate and accommodate other information to come into my thinking process, and
Hmm.
then maybe change some of the perception that I've had throughout my life. And that's what I would hope that people do. In fact, when I sit in therapy with people, people assume that I am coming from know it all. I don't. I listen to them, and you'd be surprised how much I actually learn from my patients. A
Yeah,
lot. Like 20% of the session is me learning from them. They don't even know it, but I
Yeah.
actually do. Why? Because I keep myself open and I never tell myself that I know the answer to this question and I know the best. Let sit here, let me hear you. I don't go in that direction at all.
Yeah.
I sit in an environment where I create the capacity, when I bring a context, that your content, whatever you bring in, is going to facilitate hopefully healing and change. That's the context I bring. I don't bring my own information and keep throwing it at the person. I create a context to make that, to bring that ability for the person, for the individual. And of course, sometimes we shy away from it, and I'm not very different from anybody else. Sometimes I look at a post maybe on Facebook or on Instagram and I go, oh my God. I quickly come to judgment, right? And sometimes I just
Yeah.
pass by it. I don't even fact check it. I just take it in, right? Just like
Yeah.
everybody else. But a lot of other times I say to myself, hold on, take it easy. Let's check to see if this is actually a valid point, if it's very close to fact. I don't think there is ever a 100% truth. Only God knows. And Jesus probably knows 100% truth. I do not know it. I come close
Yeah.
to it. So I'm not going to criticize myself and be harsh to myself and say, oh, why did you judge it this way? I judged it the way I did. But of course, I'm not going to sell my judgment to somebody else as facts either. And I think
I have a
sometimes
question.
people do that. They sell their own reality to other people as the truth, and it's not.
Yeah. How much do you think insecurity and emotional rigidity has to do with people being unwilling or unable to see things from different perspectives?
It is, in my belief, a person who looks at life as black and white, as good and bad, or a person who has a rigid view of pessimistic view of everything that
Hmm.
comes across, they have a harder time to
Yeah.
change their perspective. They have a harder time to open their mind to new ideas. They have a much harder time to assimilate anything that is new, that maybe even is the opposite side of what they have always believed, because they
Hmm.
want to hold on to what they believe. And they're also people that are very judgmental. And I think when you become extremely judgmental, you pass very quick judgment, you take that ability away from yourself to be able to see something else, to be
Yes.
able to connect with someone and look at it from their lens for at least a 2 minute period, for crying out loud. Just give yourself 2 minutes to look at their view.
Ex-
Are all the Republicans bad, like you brought up? All the Democrats are bad? No, they're not. Some of them just have different views, and we may not like it. That
yes.
does not mean they're bad people, right?
Yes.
So I
All right.
think when we bring that allowance to ourselves to be able to at least look at it from their side of where they're looking at it, we may be able to look at our view a little bit and not be so rigid. The rigidity, in my opinion, comes from the way we are brought up. So
Hmm.
if we have always struggled to make sure that somebody understands us, when we come a little bit older and we become a little bit more rigid in our thinking, we think that that's what I think is the truth, and it is what it is because it has worked for me that way. It may not have necessarily worked for you, but you would assume that it has worked for you that way, and you will stick to your guns. And it's also the belief system that they have given you. Let's say somebody has a strong belief on a religion, religious ideas, right? Do you really think easily we can change their perception? No. They're very rigid on it and truly believe in it. Do I say that's a bad thing? No. But I think it becomes an issue when you want to operate from that view throughout your life and with everything that you do. It makes your life much harder. We have to have
Yes.
that flexibility and that open mind. Flexibility comes with open mind. I don't think anybody
Yes.
can just make themselves flexible if they don't keep an open mind and say, like, when you speak, I listen. I don't just try to listen and respond. I listen to understand.
Yes. One thing about flexibility and rigidity. We learn that in the body, whether it be in your blood vessels, whether it be in your muscles, whether it be in your tendons, whether it be in your ligaments, the more rigid things are, usually the less healthy they are, and the closer they are to death. So flexibility in thinking and mental acumen and in the way that we perceive things are and emotionally are just as important as they are to our physical bodies. Do you have
Absolutely.
any? Do you have? Tell people where to find you, real quick.
You can find me on drkate@yahoo.com or at 310-709-1102. I am actually based in Los Angeles.
Beautiful. Hey, one last question. Based on all of the information that you've received, and based on all of the information that you've studied over the years, what's the best basketball team in LA?
The best basketball team in LA is always one, and that's LA Lakers. Don't ever forget that. I don't
Yes,
believe what
sir.
anybody else says about anything. I mean, I love a lot of other players in other teams, right? They're my
Yes,
favorites, but there is only one Lakers, and they're always
yes,
the
sir.
champion in my heart. I grew up with
Yes,
them, and I will not change. I will be rigid on that, and I will be stubborn, and I will not change my opinion. I'm gonna stick
I
to the
love you
guns.
the same way. Well, I love you,
I
brother,
love you
so much.
too.
And if we don't speak before you before Christmas, man, have a merry Christmas to you and your
Thank
family.
you
May yeah,
to
you're
you
more than
as
welcome.
well.
May you got
Thank you.
yes,
I'm wishing. I want to wish every living being on earth a year of love and joy. I hope that everyone's holiday, especially people that are listening or watching right now, for their holiday to be wrapped with a lot of health this
yes,
coming year and a lot of wisdom and filled with a lot of celebration. I
yes,
can't ask for more.
yeah.
And
And
God's
to
love.
remember every day, if we live it the right way, is truly a holy day and an opportunity to spread love, an opportunity to spread
Absolutely.
cheer, an opportunity to spread joy. We specialize it during this certain time of year, but it's something that we need to carry with us all year long, every day, and every moment of our life. And if we do that, we will truly make this world a better place. I
And
love you,
if we
Dr.
pass
Cade.
judgment, we do it with a little bit more love.
Exactly.
Mix the
With a
judgment with a little love to make it
exactly
more
level
holy.
up.
Make it
Level it up,
beautiful.
right?
Right.
Yes.
It's gonna happen anyway, right? Have a wonderful
Yes,
evening.
sir.
Good to see you. Thank
You
you.
too, brother. That was my main man, Dr. Cade, bringing us, there's those judge not lest they be judged. And if you are going to judge, don't do it in hate. Do it with an open mind. Do it in love. And do it with a forgiving, loving heart, knowing that we all have our differences. And that if we look at our differences as something to be beneficial to society and beneficial to us as a whole, then we can grow together as society and we could come together. And we thank y'all for coming together with us here on Togetherness Media. As always, want to remind you to be divine. You are loved, and we have so much other programming. Continue watching. We'll be back tomorrow.
Togetherness Media. Togethernessmedia.com.